Welcome to Love and Lattes, the podcast designed for women who are ready to stop settling and start living a life full of authentic love, confidence, and real connection. I'm your host, Victoria, the self-love scientist, speaker, and coach, and I'm here to help you reclaim your power, deepen your relationships, and fall unapologetically in love with yourself. So grab your tea, your latte, or your favorite beverage, and let's get started.
How do you rebuild your life after heartbreak or chaos that forces you to confront who you've been and who you're becoming? What happens when women stop pretending that they're fine and start talking honestly about dating, sex, and boundaries? Well, today I'm sitting here with Laura Ferri, an author, coach, and empowerment for women who's here to share what it takes to heal, to love, and to rebuild your love life after chaos. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, thanks for letting me have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. And I was so honored to be on your podcast a couple weeks ago, and we shared a lot of fun stories about
hmm
dating and relationships. So now the tables have turned.
It's definitely a different experience for sure. Do you find that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
definitely
without a
is.
doubt.
Um, so Laura, your platform is called My Inner Struggle.
hmm
So what is the struggle that you're currently learning the most from this season in your love life?
So this is really interesting actually, because since we've spoken, some things have kind of changed for me. I know it's kind of exciting. I think I finally crossed that boundary of being ready to actually date. I said I was so many times before,
Hmm.
but I went through a really bad breakup about 2.5 years ago, and it really shook me. That was the one that I feel almost broke me. But so much came out of that. So I'm super grateful for that experience, even though it was probably the hardest thing I've ever gone through because there was a lot of loss at that time. It wasn't just the relationship, it was a job, it was a lot of friendships and stuff like that. And it took a really long time to get through that. And then it was like all of a sudden, it was like the fog lifted, and I was like, I think I'm open to this. I'm open to letting love in. And I've done an immense amount of work on myself throughout, well, for the past decade, but just the growth that has happened in the last, say, 3 years while I've been building my business and doing all of those things has been tremendous and eye opening for myself. So I actually was open to this now and went on my first date that I had been on in 2.5 years. And it was an experience and it was kind of neat. And then we had a second date. So that was cool.
Oh.
Um, it's probably not going to go any further, but that's okay. But now I feel so much more confident because I crossed that, I ripped the band-aid off. I had that first date that I, had in a long time. And yeah, so that's that direction that we're heading in right now. And I'm thinking about it all differently. All of it, the dating apps and that whole thing about, like when I was in it, when I was first divorced 6 years ago, I was completely a different person, and sometimes when you're coming from that place, um, of lack, you're constantly on them like nobody's responding or they ghosted me or, all of that stuff.
Hmm.
I don't have that anymore, like at all. And it's just like, okay, well, that didn't work out. The next, like, keep moving. So that feels really, really good. So that's all been since we talked. So it's been an interesting start to 2026.
Oh, yay. I love that. Congratulations. Hell yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like you said something at the beginning that I feel like a lot of people need to hear. And that's just for any kind of heartache or breakup, but you said it almost broke you.
Mhm.
And I just found that to be super resilient. And I absolutely love that because I feel like, heartache, divorce it's no joke. Like it we try so hard, especially as women, to be like, let me just swallow this. It's fine. I'll be fine. Like, no, honey, no. Like you physically, like your heart is broken. For my divorce, I remember mourning that the end was coming. Like I was crying before I had the conversation because I knew I was like, this, everything I had prepared my whole life for is gone. And then I went through a breakup a couple of months ago, and I was like, I have never like that physical heartbreak. I was like, this is horrifying. This is horrible. And at the same time, as you have expressed, like now that you're in this next season, this new season, you're like, actually, yeah, I'm ready. And it sounds like you've discovered a lot of confidence and,
Hmm.
your approach with even dating, like you don't you don't even have to wait. You're like, no, it's fine. I'm just gonna go on to the next best thing.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering, for those listening, how did you learn to recognize that? How did you build that confidence so that, you're not glued to the apps or, you know, we always want to feel like, I just want to feel admired, I just want to feel seen, but
Hmm.
that can sometimes look like, codependency. So how did you overcome that?
It's really interesting because I think there's a lot of layers involved. I don't think you just get there like that. I don't think it's like in the movies, like where you decide, I'm better and this is what I deserve. And then somebody walks into your life. I mean, maybe it happens. I mean, it probably does happen for some people, but for me, I've been saying this a lot lately so that other people know, like I'm a slow grower. It took me a long time to get to that point. I've been doing this work on myself for a decade, and that's a long time. That's a good chunk of your life. And there's a lot of layers involved. But I think this last part of it was one, time healing, and just eventually the hurt fades and you cry less, or their head pops
Yeah.
into your face less, and because it still does. And it's interesting because this wasn't my marriage. This was the relationship that I had after my marriage. And in so many ways, it taught me a lot. And it was more devastating exiting that relationship than it was my marriage. And I think that was
Mm,
purely because my marriage dissolved over a number of years, right? Because, you're in it. And I was married for a long time. I was married for 17 years. But for 10 of those 17 years, I was kind of asking for things to be different, and over time, after so long, nothing happens, then it kind of fades. The breakup that I went through after the fact was more devastating, I think, because I was still so in love and loved him. And there will always be a part of me that loves him because I gave him a piece of myself, right? And I think getting to this point now, it was time. And I think also, I hated this when people said this to me when I got divorced, but they're like, just be busy doing what you love doing and they'll find you. And it's like, oh, okay, I am focusing on myself. But I think right now for me, I've been so busy building my business, taking care of my kids, securing life that it really doesn't take a big priority, in my life anymore. I do want my person to be a priority in my life, but being so focused on finding someone isn't, because I feel like I will meet that person in my travels or whatever I'm doing.
yeah.
Um, and it feels good not to be so glued to it. And in that, because I have so many other cups that I'm filling, I don't need to put it all into that one cup. And I think when we get to that point, I mean, I don't know because I haven't met that person yet, but it would make sense that then we'll meet the person that serves us where we are now in our personal growth journey.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I've been thinking a lot about patterns lately, especially the ones that show up in our relationships. For a long time, mine looked like overgiving, people pleasing, and convincing myself that if I shrink myself down just a little bit smaller, I would be enough. But knowing a pattern and actually breaking it are two very different things. And trying to untangle that alone can feel overwhelming. That's where therapy can help. Having outside support can help you recognize your patterns without judgment and make choices that actually support you. And that's why I'm grateful for today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp makes therapy more accessible by connecting you with a licensed therapist online so you can get the right support in a way that fits your life and your schedule. Love and Latte listeners can get 10% off their first month of therapy by going to betterhelp.com/love and lattes or by clicking the link in today's episode description. Breaking cycles isn't about fixing yourself. It's about learning to love yourself differently.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it's important to, and I love that there's like the reality for it, right? Like your life is not meant to surround or be built upon someone else's.
Hmm.
When we have the opportunity and the chance to be in a relationship with someone, it's like, okay, you have your life, I have mine, and then our relationship is over here. So we can, as you say, like fill this cup. But it's so important to maintain your cup to be filled. And then
Hmm.
every once in a while, it's like, hey, I'm feeling a little empty. Can you pour into me just a little bit? And I feel like when we're more confident in building our businesses or raising children or just looking after ourselves in general, we realize that this whole agenda of, you know, you're a woman, you're supposed to get married, have kids, blah, blah, blah at this age, that no longer exists. It's 2026.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can, people are getting married at like 80. They're finding love later. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying that that's the same for everyone. What I am saying is I think it's important for people to like take a step back, look at the big picture of what is their life and what they want it to be. And it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, everyone wants to be with someone, everyone wants to find their person, but you can't go looking for your person for that purpose. Like, I have to find someone. It's like, no,
Right.
you need to feel whole on your own. And
Hmm.
obviously, as you and I have talked about, like we're healing and you're gonna be healing in your dating life and in your relationships. So I admire that about you, and I think that's so wonderful.
Thank you. It's kind of weird, like observing yourself through
Yeah.
through the journey because I was like, oh, I remember that. I remember those nights when, I'm on the apps and I'm like, why aren't they responding? What's happening? And now, a day could go by and I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't even look today, like, or I didn't
Hmm.
respond. And that feels good. Although I feel bad because I don't want to be unresponsive, but I am busy living my life and my person will know that too and not be offended by that either. So we'll see. It's good practice. That's what I'm doing right now. That's what I keep saying to myself because I have another date this week with somebody else. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I'm like, I'm practicing right now. I'm getting to know who I am,
Hmm.
in that. My biggest goal for myself is not to lose myself in another relationship because that was historically what has happened to me. Um, so we'll see how that goes. I'm going to tiptoe through this and see how it feels. I think there's a certain amount of growth that we do on our own. And then you need to go through the relationship thing in order to heal the rest of the parts, right? Because if you're going through life single and you're like, I'm great, you're not getting triggered by anything, right? So there's
Right.
no way you can like put that into practice too.
That's actually a really good point, though. And I think listeners need to kind of go back and re-listen to what you just said because you could come out, and I know this from personal experience, like I came out of my divorce, like I was always in my masculine. So I took charge, I wanted control. And then when I met the person who kind of helped me be a little bit softer, it triggered me. I was like, wait, no. And I think it's important to recognize that Well, yes, we all love an independent, baddie, like do you. And also practicing, like you said, I love that you're intentional. Like I get to date and now you have one. And eventually, like when you do find yourself in a relationship, a healthy relationship is going to trigger you. It's going to open up those wounds that
Hmm.
we didn't know were there in the first place, or maybe we did at that point. But, part of our healing journey is, we don't want to go back there. But the new people in our lives who want to work with us, it's like, wait a minute, you want to listen to my feelings? You want to support me in my business? What?
Yeah. And in the beginning, so like even in my last relationship, I can remember him pointing out to me too, because I was kind of like cynical in a way in the beginning of that, because I was like, well, this is weird. Like you want to do these things for me.
Hmm.
And then over time that faded. So like I knew what it was supposed to feel like. And I know now not to cling on to anything like that,
Mm,
right? Like that rule of um unattachment, which was really, really hard for me because I'm like, how can you not be attached? Whether we're attached to the idea of that person or the potential of that person rather than
yeah.
who they actually are, or you fall in love with their potential rather than them. And that was something that I think I think happens a lot and definitely happened to me because we're thinking about how wonderful they are in these little compartments, but maybe not throughout their life. And we're hoping they'll step up and be that because we know that they can be that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so that'll be an interesting thing for me, especially as a coach, because I'm always, helping people become their best selves. So I don't want to coach in my relationship. I don't want
Mm.
to do that. Right. So like that'll be an interesting thing to navigate is like, how do I be in a relationship without trying to fix the other person? Because that was always kind of me. And it's just out of like, it's almost out of like maternal kind of instinct, right? Like you meet somebody and you're like, yes, I want to help you, but
Yeah.
those boundaries are so important.
I remember recognizing a couple weeks ago that it's not a fault, and this is for anyone who can relate, and you said it well, like, and most women have this in them. Like, I'm a nurturer, and then I have that therapist mentality, so I'm always like let's open it up, like tell me more, like, and then I realized that you know, I could be doing that, whether or not it is out of love or whether it's like, well, I just want to understand or I just want to be there for you, but I need to be there for myself too.
Hmm.
And it's like also learning that, well, they have their feelings and stating mine are just as important. And I think that it's easier for us again because of previous experiences that we tend to be a little bit quieter and we're like, no, it's fine, I'm fine. When in reality, we're like building resentment. We're like, oh, I gotta
Hmm.
get. And
Yeah.
I think you made a really good point too that I heard this recently and I was like, oh, ooh, a lot of people fall in love with the idea of potential. And we have to practice that healthy detachment. And it's not to say like, you have to just step out and, don't love them. That's not what this is. Having a healthy detachment is more so like, um, it's okay that I have this boundary, or it's okay for me to express this because their response has nothing to do with who I am.
Hmm. That can be hard to swallow sometimes too, right? Because you have
Yes.
no idea. I was thinking about this after my last date. And I think I was the last one to text, and he didn't text me back. And I'm just putting that in my pocket. I wasn't really feeling it, and it's okay. And he probably felt that energy. But I have this desire to be like, well, these are the reasons why like I wasn't feeling it and I can't do that in my head, right? So it's like I wish that he knew it wasn't anything that he did or anything like that. He's just at a different stage in his life. But I
Hmm.
can't go fixing everybody that I meet, or I don't need to have the last word. Those are all things that I think, not letting your ego take over, right? And maybe that is in like your masculine versus your feminine, right? Always wanting the last word or anything like that. It can kind of like hurt our pride a little bit sometimes, when we didn't get to explain ourselves or be
Yeah.
heard, and I'm not feeling it necessary. So it was just like an observation to myself. And I was like, oh, I hope he knows that it wasn't, it wasn't like him. It was just kind of like it didn't really align with like where I want to be. And hopefully he knows that. But I used to have this thing 6 years ago when I was talking to people on apps or whatever, and they would say something, and here I am like explaining like all of this stuff, and I'm like, why the fuck? I don't even know these people. Like, why am I explaining these things? Um, why do I have to do that? But it's kind of just, it's me. Like, I want to help everybody. So it's like, I'm parenting all these people, right? It's like when your kids do something, I have 3 kids. And when they do something, I'll explain like, what the lesson is and that or whatever. And this is why we'd want to do that. And I don't need to do that in my dating life at all, unless somebody's explicitly asking me, like, what do women want to hear or something like that, that's
Yeah.
fine. But knowing that I don't need to do that and I don't need to make everybody better. I am allowed to let the support come to me and be in a reciprocal relationship. And that goes with friendships too, right? As I've grown, I'm like, no more unreciprocal relationships. It has
Mm,
to be a give and take. Yeah.
absolutely. I love that word, reciprocal. And you're right. It's not our job to play rescuer in every person date that we come across. I think it's healthy to be like to have curiosity
Hmm.
and to ask questions, but then when you sit there and realize, I have a friend of mine who would go on dates and she realized, she goes, I'm the only one asking questions. So when she stopped, she realized, this person really doesn't have an interest in her. And she
Hmm.
is like, I'm looking for someone who wants to invest in me as much as I have invested in myself. And I'm like, ooh, like if you really take a good look at like, take yourself out of the picture and realize like what's really happening, like a good 360, you can actually see, are you dating up to your standards and your boundaries, or are you dating because it just feels nice?
Right. So for the attention or whatever. And we know when we're like, I really could use somebody to like dote on me right now. I just want like just a little validation or somebody to say something or a compliment or whatever. And if you just ride that out without acting on it, it changes it, right? Like, so it's like, I don't know, it would be I like to attribute that to, like if you're out, out with friends or something, and not having a drink that night and just kind of like letting that go, and you're just kind of sitting there in observation mode, completely aware, right? And just kind of observe what's happening. It's funny because I knew that he wasn't really asking me questions
Mhm.
the first time I met him. But I was
Yeah.
like, but he was super excited and he just kept talking and talking and talking and sharing. So I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens the next time. Let's just see if it's the same thing. And he really wasn't asking me any questions, but I was sitting there thinking about it, and almost like as the observer, I'm like floating over us. Is this a ping pong match? Or is somebody constantly hitting and somebody's not hitting back, right? Because we're like, we want them to ask the questions. We don't want to be completely quiet or clammed up either, but it should be like a volley back and forth. You ask a question, I ask a question, and then we're both like interested. In my mind, that's how it should be. One person shouldn't necessarily dominate the conversation. And there will be times when somebody does, but I think right, when you step back and look at it, is this reciprocal or not?
Yeah. And so it's not, you and I have a lot in common when it comes to relationships. Like when we went through divorce and then there was that breakup that like it was just awful. So as you're moving forward and going and enjoying the dating, what are some things that you feel that our listeners should keep in mind when they're also like starting over or getting ready to open themselves back up to love? And what are these things or ideas that are helping you maintain that confidence?
I think um that's a really good question because like I'm not a I am so far from like a dating expert of any kind, but I do know like I've been through it and my confidence, I don't think I was born with confidence. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I think I had confidence and probably until I was like 5 or 6. And then
Yeah.
throughout my journey, it just got, knocked down or whatever. And it took a long time to build back up. I don't know exactly why I feel so good right now. I don't know if it's because things are going well in my business, which is a
Mm,
huge part of my confidence. And with my children, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. So I think that has a lot to do with that. And the outlook on dating and not getting discouraged, I would say, like, just keep doing like what you love doing. That person that you're going to meet is there to like enhance things, not like take away from it. So the the more instead of like honing in on one person and being like all about that person and making sure how their day was and stuff like that. Not that you shouldn't, ask them how their day was, but it doesn't have any reflection of you. And so the more I think about that, a reaction, if you're like chatting with somebody and um, they, say something that isn't like favorable. I don't even know. Or negativity is a huge turn off to me. So somebody that's like, this sucks, that sucks, like, ugh, now I have to do this. And they're just complaining through every part of their life. I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm going to just move on. So it's
mm,
not like dragging you down. And I think like, the more you know yourself, the easier it'll be to meet people. And I think that just builds confidence in itself. And then the less of those types that are not your type that you're interacting with, the better off you are. Because that person on the other end of the phone or, the table or whatever should be making you feel good, not like worse. So when you walk away from a conversation and you feel drained, that's your body telling you something. Like that's probably not the person that you, and this goes with friendships too, right? We
mhm.
might all have that friend that kind of like just sucks everything out of us. And I've been that friend when I've been in deep, dark times. And you have to get out of that mode in order to get to the next step, but it's all totally up to you. So really it's it's up to us about how we feel, and we can choose to feel happy or we can choose to feel sad or depressed about it. I'm looking at this as like I said, practice, but I'm here to learn. I'm here to learn about myself. And I'm meeting
Mm.
people like in business all the time too, that it's kind of the same thing. You're building relationships all over and putting um, less weight on finding the one rather than just meeting people and who can enhance my life. I am so like into this that I'm like I could meet somebody random and just like go do something fun. And my story is different than yours. I know I got married young, so I didn't do the whole dating thing in my 20s. So I feel like that's what I'm going through now. I'm like continually getting to know myself and about myself because when you step outside your comfort zone, you kind of have this new outlook on the things that you enjoy doing and knowing, like, yeah, I don't want to do that again, or whatever it is. I hope that answers your question. I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was great. And I do encourage listeners to really think about some of the words that Laura is saying. When you're around the right people, those who enhance your experiences. Maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's just the experience themselves, but yeah, your body, your feelings are gonna know, does this person add to my life or are they taking away? And that is a huge indication, especially like you said, you're doing really well in business. that's a very confident enhancing thing. And you're very happy and you're a wonderful mother. So all these wonderful positives and stuff that are happening in your lives, that's exactly how dating and your relationship should be too.
Hmm.
So I believe, for women and anyone else listening, having some confidence there is great. Feeling secure in yourself is going to take you very far in the dating game, especially like, again, we don't have to anchor or kind of like bite down on like, no, I can't. I have to make sure I message all these people or I have to send all my likes and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, like your life is not surrounded in that app. It's not surrounded by people, across the table. You're there
Hmm.
to be you. And you're exactly right. Dating is an experience and being in a relationship is an experience. Like, and you have full control, full power on what exactly you're doing. And it should be fun. Like,
Hmm.
being in love is supposed to be fun and dating is supposed to be enjoyable. And there's so much white noise about, people are like, oh, I'll never find the right man or woman. And it's like, well, become that person. And you'd be
Hmm.
surprised on how the universe works. And it's like, oh yeah, here you go. Here's some right people. So yeah, thank you, Laura. I think you shared a lot of amazing wisdom. And I feel like the authenticity behind like the reality behind growing after heartache or divorces or breakups is that you'll be back in it, you know, on your own terms. And for
Right.
everyone listening, there is no timeline. You can be dating, months or weeks after, years. Like, you're allowed to take your time. This is just a small component of the life you get to have and build. So, yeah, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Laura, for being here with me today on Love and Lattes.
Thank you.